enough attendees to get going with this. I've muted all the panel, and I would like to introduce this webinar. It's the first time I've done one of these, so please do forgive me for any mistakes I make during this program. In terms of the schedule for today, we will start with a brief introduction. That's what we're starting right now. And after we have introduced the panel and the discussion, we will have a brief discussion between the four panelists with various questions which we believe will be of use to all the attendees. Thereafter, we will have a Q&A session. Now, I ask you to all familiarize yourselves with the Q&A feature. If you look on your Zoom program, you will see at the bottom there's a Q&A feature. If you can put all your questions on there and direct the question at the relevant party. What I mean by that is put, for example, to Shahzad, or to Safa, or to Hasan, or to Mahmood, and then put the question that you would like in there. The question will then be liked by others, and they will go to the top of the list. I'll ask the most popular questions. After we have done that, we will also give the audience the ability to speak directly to the panelist, and we will conclude with closing comments and a poll. To make a start, can we try the poll feature? So if you all go on the poll now, I'm going to launch this as an example poll to give you an idea of how it will work. So you should come up on your screen now. This will give you an idea of how the polling works, and will give us an idea of where the most popular channels are for spreading this kind of information and advertising for future webinars. And we have 17 out of the 34, 18 out of the 34, and I'll show everybody the results shortly. Okay. And I'll end the poll there. I'll share the results. This will give you an idea of how the polling works. For the question and answers, remember the facility is there. Feel free to submit them further down the program, and we will review them as we go along. So without further delay, I will go through the introduction to each of the panelists. We have Shahzad Younas, also known as Shaz. He is from Muzmatch, ex-investment banker. He attended Manchester University with myself before becoming an ex-investment banker. We had lots of games, fun and games at Manchester University, playing Doom on the network. You'll remember back in the day. And he is now the founder of a tech startup, globally recognized Muzmatch. He secured 2 funding rounds, I believe, with YC Combinator. I'm not sure both of them were the first one was. We've known each other for a long time. So I really thank him and all the panelists for attending today. Safa Alkateb, he is the CEO of Autocab International. He runs they're a global leader in delivering SaaS for taxi companies in the UK. He's in the UK, and he moved from the US after establishing several successful ventures there. They effectively allow taxi companies now to have some kind of competition with Uber. Mahmood Mawjee, inspirational speaker, former dentist, Mr. Motivator. He is all about health and fitness, but with correct mindset, excellent business person, and inspires a lot of entrepreneurs and successful business people. Hasan Kubba, he's the author of The Unfair Advantage, also TEDx speaker. He's a best-selling author, entrepreneur, startup strategist. They got Book of the Month award from W.H. Smith, and he's recognized for his writing ability. Myself, I'll introduce myself. I'm Hassan Ahmed. I'm the founder of Pairoo.com. I'm an ex-Microsoft consultant, so I've worked with Microsoft previously. I'm a cloud platform and big data specialist. I founded Pairoo back in 2018 to bring a tech revolution to locum recruitment and workforce management in healthcare. Some ground rules, guys. So when we're starting the Q&A a bit further on, only raise your hand if you want to ask a question. If you don't want to ask a question, don't raise your hand, simple. Please be respectful at all times. to all the panelists. Keep questions short, 20 seconds if possible, and use a Q&A feature if you feel it can be just asked through myself. Direct the questions to one panelist at a time. Feel free to post the questions, but WhatsApp messages will be ignored. I know a lot of you are sending me WhatsApp messages at the moment. Please stop. As you can see, I'm trying to speak. So without further delay, I'm going to fire the first question over to Shaz. We want to know how you dealt with adversity when you were with Muzmatch. I'm sure there were times where you really found it difficult. It was, the going got tough. How did you deal with it during those times? And then the second part of the question is, how are you transitioning now to working from home during this crisis? How are you managing that? Are you making a success of it? What advice can you give to those who are now working from home?
Cool, thank you. Islam everyone, and welcome. Thanks for having me on this webinar. It's one of the first webinars I've done, so happy to help you out here on this. For your first question, how did I deal with adversity? Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we've been going, so Muzmatch, for those who don't know, we're an app that gets Muslims married. So we're 5 years old now. Yeah, we've raised a bunch of money. The team have grown from literally just me in my bedroom to now we're 35 people. So yeah, alhamdulillah, we've come a long way. In terms of adversity, over the 5 years, tons, literally, we've had, I remember, I think 6 months in, this was kind of early days of cloud and all that. And our server was a physical server, and literally the hard drive died and we lost a week's worth of data. So a lesson there, always have backups. That was very stressful. Just trying to get everything back up, people complaining about X, Y, Z. And obviously you're thinking a week's worth of messages, of new signups, all that kind of stuff gone. Major headache. And then along the way, lots of other various bits of adversity, be it mistakes that you make in business, or mistakes even in terms of features, or the way you've implemented something or whatever. Tons, literally, yeah, so many. I think the way I deal with it personally is, I'm generally quite lucky in that I don't get overly emotional, probably about anything, which is maybe not a good thing, but I don't get overly emotional. So within reason, I try and just take whatever's happening in. I almost sometimes try and force myself to sleep on it. So if I'm a bit stuck of a particular direction to go, or a decision to make, an important decision or something like that, or there's some issue that I'm dealing with, sometimes I literally consciously try not to have an immediate answer, and almost force myself to just sleep on it and come back the next day. And then I've usually found whenever I've done that with big stuff, I seem to have gotten to a better conclusion. So that's definitely one thing. Don't rush thinking you've got to have an answer right there and then. Some stuff is more urgent and you need to deal with it there and then, fine. Like I said, I think the easiest, or the way I try to do it is try not to get too emotional about it. We're all human, right? Especially if it's your own business, you're going to have some level of anxiety. I think it's probably unnatural if you don't, if you're that cold about it. But try and have a bit of perspective. Bad stuff always happens, and that's fine. I think it's just the way you try and frame it, at least, in that within reason, there's always 1,000 things worse that could happen. I think that's the way you think about everything. Even with what's going on now, in all honesty, like I said, look at us all, right? We're in a home, we got food, we got whatever. We're pretty in a good place. Whereas for a lot of people, they're definitely not. So I think definitely always have some perspective in knowing that there definitely is always someone in a much worse position. So there's an element of being grateful for what you've got as well. I think, like I said, in terms of your thought process, yeah, like I said, don't rush into making a decision. Try and sleep on it. I think lastly, one thing it's always good to do, and it sounds cheesy, but do talk about it. If it's with trusted people in your company, then try and kind of have the conversation with them as well. Because, good ideas, don't be snobby. Good ideas come from anywhere. There's always sometimes a danger of talking to too many people about it. And, what you don't want to do, let's say if it's something quite major, you don't equally want to panic people in your team or have people worried about, you don't want to push the worry onto them. If you are the CEO, if you're running the company, or if you're responsible for a team, I always kind of think sometimes part of that job is absorbing all the crap and not letting it pass on. So what you should do, which I try to do within reason, is always have a smile, and where sensible, try and just take a lot of those problems yourself to a degree. The plus and minuses. Some people are really hard about that, and always want to talk to other people. Fine, if that's your way, do it. For others, I found, generally speaking, normally there's more benefit of me trying to deal with whatever situation and kind of mask everyone else from it, so they can focus on what they need to focus on. Because the last thing I want to do is focus on other people. But equally, you want to kind of sensibly or tactfully talk around the subject, because, like I said, somebody will give you an answer or a way forward or something that you didn't think about, which actually might be a huge help for you. So never be too snobby to ask someone for help as well. Even sometimes I found, talk to other founders of other companies. If you've got friends who also have a startup, or even if it's a completely different kind of sector or industry, talk to them as well, because at least then you'll get an unbiased answer, and you can probably be more frank in terms of talking about any adversity or any problem that you're facing. So definitely do that. I always say kind of get advice from people that you trust, but equally get advice from people who've actually done it. I found there's a lot of people who make a lot of noise, and trust me, there's endless people who are the experts. Trying to find someone who actually consciously been in that situation and have concrete advice to give you, rather than kind of just, I guess, quoting advice or whatever.
Sorry, to kind of press ahead in terms of working from home. How have you managed the transition now? Because you were pretty much full time on site. How have you now moved to managing an a remote team?
Cool. So our setup was, we were in one big office. 30 of us in a big office. So, now, like I said, we've made it work. Now you just have to make it work. So lots of, what we tried to do is actually on the day, I remember the day when Boris said pretty much that basically everyone go home now. Because until then we'd held off. I was very keen to wait for the official kind of government advice on this. The moment he said it, literally that same day, I kind of wrote up some basic guidelines of how we do it and what people need to do. So I was kind of flexible. I let people take equipment from the office home. I personally try to ask everyone, what do you need? Do you need a new office chair? Do you need a new desk? Do you need devices? What do you need? I'll order it. Because little things like that, in the scheme of things, they don't cost the company a huge amount, but for the person doing the work, it makes a massive difference. Just in terms of comfort. Because you'd be amazed, people don't have a good home setup. I had some of my guys sitting on garden chairs, because they didn't have an office chair. Little things like that. So you're just like, all right, I'll get you an office chair. Let's sort out your situation here. Number one, definitely, I think, for example, we have our monthly one-to-ones, which probably are more important now than ever, because people will be feeling a bit disconnected. So we've constantly kind of brought up a structure. So within Teams, everyone has a stand-up over Zoom or whatever, or Slack calling. Every morning, and then every Monday we have one as a whole company together. But then, like I said, one-to-one super important, and I kind of go through those and see how I can help people more.
Cool. Thank you very much, Shaz. Hasan, you are somebody who's, I guess, not a stranger to working remotely. You've been doing it for a number of years, and you've been doing it relatively successfully. How have you managed? I mean, has it made any difference to you in terms of what's happened now, in terms of your work? Has it had an impact on you, remote working? And how have you managed to do so successfully over the years? Go ahead.
Yeah, hey Hasan. So I started my business back in 2014. It was a digital marketing agency. My goal was to kind of build that up. And so I was working from home initially, and from cafes, libraries, anywhere that I can go. And actually, I even prepared a few slides to share because I'm very visual and I'm used to just whipping something up. I'll quickly just share my screen and just teach my learnings from what I've done and what has helped me in the past. You were asking about, let me know if you can see my screen, by the way.
Yeah, I can see, yeah.
Perfect. So that's me with my co-author. Now I've recently released a book back in January. But my background is a digital marketing agency I launched in 2014. How do I start this slide?
Slideshow from start, yeah.
So I started my own company. So the book is based on the Miles framework. So the idea being you can find your own unfair advantages and work from there. And mindset was the foundation that we talked about. So it's important to have at times like this kind of a growth mindset, to be able to be able to be resilient, that sort of thing, because we put mindset as the foundation. I'll just quickly move past this. So this photo was taken on the day I quit my job back in like early 2014. That's why I look really happy, because kind of having a job, corporate job in the city wasn't for me. And I was raring to go and get started. And I realized it was really difficult to kind of work kind of without having a boss, without having that external structure, without having an office to go to. So for me, I think the reason I was struggling in cafes, libraries, I think it's because it's routines. Productivity is all about developing the right habits, I believe. And I really believe in developing those habits. And we've all had a big disruption in our lives with this whole COVID thing. The thing is, our environment, one of the things I've learned is our environments really dictate how we feel and how the activities we do in that environment. So sitting in your living room or in your kitchen, you're not going to associate that usually with work. So it really helped me, for example, to set up the right atmosphere. So for me, saying a routine, I used to do jogging every morning, which really helped. By the way, it took a lot of trial and error to get to the right point, to build up my business, to start getting clients, to grow from there. Jogging every morning. I used to kind of try and dress up, try not to be in your PJs and just kind of dress scrappy. It can still work. It depends on you as a person. But for me, what helped was to kind of have that mindset of now I'm going to work. And then I actually bought a room partition, a room divider. And that actually helped because I put it around my desk. And then I felt like I was in a different room. It was a weird psychological thing that I did for a few months, which really helped me when I was working from home. So just like little tips like that, which hopefully that can come in handy for some people. Biggest thing is to remove distractions. This applies to work anyway, but at home you're likely to have more distractions. Some people have young kids. Luckily, I don't yet have any kids. But if you have young kids, it's very tough to reduce those distractions, but do what you can to reduce them. Turn off the notifications. These notifications are really going to get you distracted. They're designed to kind of get your attention. They're designed to keep you addicted to the app to see more advertising. So try and stay away from the phone notifications. For me, what worked in terms of productivity is I use something called the Pomodoro technique. There's basically an app that you can download, or you can get a timer. It's basically 25-minute work blocks where you say, I'm not going to distract myself from anything. And just do focus blocks of time. And that's how I was able to write the book. That's how I was able to start my business. And I've started to do something recently called bullet journaling. It's all about writing bullet points in a handwritten pen and paper journal. You can look it up online. There's a very quick tutorial on how to do bullet journaling. Those are the tools that have helped me. So our routines are all out of whack now. We have to consciously develop new ones and develop new habits. And I think that's the advice I would give. For me now, it has disrupted me as well, because I have been working from an office in the last couple of years. So I've kind of had to come back to working from home again. So yeah, things have changed for me as well. So it's not just that.
So how is this different? How is it different, very briefly? How is it different to the last time you were working from home to now? Is things is it impacting you differently, or
life changes, right? I'm married now.
Okay.
So there's more responsibilities, more things to do, living somewhere different. I live in a kind of a small 1-bedroom flat, so it's kind of like getting the space. I bought an office chair. It's good, Shahzad, that's one of the first things you did. It really helped me to just get an office chair. Even though I'm working from the kitchen table, it's fine as long as I've got a comfy chair to work from. Yeah, it's been different. I had just graduated pretty much when I started my business, and I was in my bedroom at my parents' house. So yeah, things have changed. And it's taken a while to get used to it again and to get back into it. And it takes time, and kind of go easy on yourself. It takes time to develop those new habits. One of the big books which I recommend for that is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I really like this book, and I even recommend it in my own book when it comes to productivity. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Hasan. Thank you.
Sure.
So on to Mahmood now. I would like to ask you now, a lot of people are going through adversity now, a lot of difficulty. It's easy for a lot of people to say, I'm working from home now, I'm still working, I've got a job. But the reality is there's a lot of despair out there. People are worried, people are struggling to make ends meet, and life has suddenly become a lot more difficult. What can we do to address this? Is it a mindset thing, or do we have to face reality? What is the way forwards for people who are in really difficult challenges now?
First of all, salam Zul, and thank you so much for the invitation to be here. I think right now we're going through some really crazy times, and these can be the best times for some people. They can be the worst times for some people. The question is, how are you taking this? I believe all of this, number one, is about mindset. and how you wake up every morning, what you're thinking, how you're going to make this happen. So like, you know, in the past, it's been like you to think positively or negatively. You know, what if there was a third way of thinking? That right now, a lot of the people I'm speaking to, a lot of the calls I'm getting is people are panicky, people are scared. And I understand that, right? Because, you know, people may be losing their jobs, money may be an issue, health, hopefully, for all of us hasn't been hit and hopefully won't be hit. But there's all these worries right now, right? How do we cope? But if you can think about it, right? I always say that, you know, there's always a gift in everything. In everything, there's a gift, there's a gift. What if you could find the gift in this and you could actually make these next 2-3 months of lockdown the best time you ever had? The next Uber, the next Facebook, you know, the next massive things are going to be built during this time. But they're going to be built by people who are actually going to use this time to actually focus on the right things. If I tell you to wake up every day and be positive, you're going to tell me, look, Mahmood, you're crazy, right? Things are going bad, losing money, lost my job. What am I going to do? You know, people may be sick. I can't be positive. And I always say that, you know, positive thinking doesn't really work because you've got to think about what you think about to be able to think positively. And only 5% of our mind is a conscious part and 95% is a subconscious. So how do you train yourself every day to be in a place where you can make the most of this time? So what I say is don't think positively. Just a third way of thinking is just don't think negatively. Right. There's been a lot of research which has been done recently in Harvard, right? And what it said is that negative thinking is 4 to 7 times more powerful than positive thinking. And also when you say something loudly, it's 10 times more powerful than if you just think about it. So all day, right, a lot of times we're saying these things out loudly, right? We're telling people we're worried, we're telling people about this. So, you know, when you put them together, you're 40 to 70 times more likely to get those things happen in your life. So right now, the biggest thing that you can do is, number one, just understand that there's a gift in this. Control yourself, have a rigid morning routine, something you can stick to. Something where you know that if you use these next few months, you can achieve things you never, ever, ever thought were possible. And, you know, champions are made at these kind of times. And the thing is, you know, how are you thinking? How are you waking up? What are you doing? What's your first thing in the morning? You know, simple things like I say, you know, have a rigid morning routine. The first thing I say, wake up in the morning and just have a list of the things you can be thankful for, right? Everything. So I tell people, you know, take 2 minutes and just write down everything that you can be grateful for. From your, you know, things we don't normally even think about, from your eyes to your nose to your lungs to the air we have, health we have, the money we have, the spouse we have, the kids we have. Just write it down. And if you can wake up every morning, and normally the first thing we think about tends to be our problems, but when we can think about the things we've been grateful for, then life changes very quickly. You're already in a different state of mind. You know, Hasan, you spoke about going running. I run every morning. You know, for me, my whole story came from there. And, you know, right now, this is the time where if you can focus your mind, you can achieve things in your life which you never, ever, ever thought was possible. My whole life's been turned upside down. So I'm a speaker. Twice a month, I'm out the country. You know, I've had 3 to 6 trips cancelled over the next few months. I've lost 6 figures worth of income over the next few months. But there's a gift in all of this, right? That all the time when I said when I have time, I'm going to get a lot of my stuff online. I'm going to build my online programs and all that. You know, I've never had time for that because I was in a plane or speaking or delivering. But this is the time, right, when I can now sit down and I'm delivering so much now over these mediums right now. So there's a gift. Find the gift to unlock the treasure.
Thank you very much, Mahmood. Thank you for that. Safa, for you, you managed a company with 200 employees. You've seen good times, you've seen tough times. How can businesses who are struggling or even doing okay manage themselves through this crisis and come out afterwards on the other side able to excel and progress?
No.
Sorry, Safa, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Hasan, for inviting me to be on this panel. I'm delighted to be here. Look, times of crisis have some bad news, definitely. There's definitely lots of bad news, but there's also lots of good news that can happen at times of crisis. Of course, the bad news first, you know, there's a lot of pressure, there's loss of revenue. Your customers don't want to engage with you, they don't want to spend any money. And you're having a really hard time and you're managing, your costs are maybe there, but you know, your revenue is gone. And it's very, very difficult to deal with all the changes that Shahzad talked about in terms of working from home, all of those challenges. But there's also some good news, actually some very good news that comes at times of crisis, which is really what happens afterwards. There's really a huge amount of opportunities for all of the businesses out there if you can just manage through the bad times. And it's very, easy to understand why. For 3 to 6 months, people won't be using your product or buying your product or using your service. And there's going to be some pepped up demand for what you do, right after this. And so you can expect a huge amount of increase in sales right after the situation clears out. Another thing is, unfortunately, your competition, you say fortunately or unfortunately, there will be somebody that will go out of business that wasn't managing their business very well already, and the crisis comes in and just tips them over the edge. And what that means is, after when the crisis ends, if there are 5 competitors, maybe 2 are gone. The revenue that those 2 competitors would have gotten will simply be distributed over the ones that actually survived. So really, that says there's a huge opportunity that can happen right after, and you just have to manage through. Now, the question might be, and I just have about 3 minutes, I guess, to go through this. What can you do during the time of crisis? Well, I've got kind of 4 things I would say one should look at. One is plan to survive. Very, very important. There are businesses that flourish, actually, in this kind of scenario, but lots of other businesses would be under pressure. So the first thing you need to do is to make sure your business survives during this critical period of time. Because if you're not going to survive, nothing really matters, right? And so therefore, make some assumptions about the amount of revenue you can expect over the next 6 months. Let's say you can say, look, over the next 3 months, I'm going to expect 25% of the normal revenue. And the 3 months after that, I'm going to expect about 75% of my normal revenue. And then after that, things will come back to normal. Work with those numbers and see that you have the right cash flow for you to operate during that time. And reduce some of the workforce if you have to. There is, some great government programs in terms of furlough and so on that you can take advantage of. And just make sure you have the right amount of cash and you can operate and survive this time. Because if you can survive, then there's great rewards right after. You don't want to be one of those 2 companies that didn't make it. So that's number 1. Number 2, take care of your loyal employees. This is a time where you really do that. You would have had employees that have been with you for a long time, or you fought together and won together and lost together. You need to really take care of those employees and make sure you're there for them. And also it's really an opportunity for you to gain loyalty with your employees, because if you're going to be there with them at this time, try your best to be there for them, because then that's going to pay off over the future. You're going to get a lot of loyalty from them going forward. Number 3, stay connected with your customers and stay relevant to your customers, even if they're not buying anything. You need to be communicating with your customers. You need to look and see everything you can do to help out your customers. You may be under stress, but they're the ones that they feel they're the ones that are under stress. And so your job is to think for them and think what you can do for them and what you can do to help them. If nothing, contact them, talk to them, stay relevant, be out there, be on LinkedIn, don't get forgotten during this period. It's really, really important for you to stay very close to your customers during a time like this. And the last one I want to talk about is, honestly, may sound counterintuitive. I just said, you have to reduce costs maybe and make sure you survive, and all of these things are kind of defensive steps. But this is the time to really invest in the future of your business. I tell you, there will be a lot of very talented people out there. I would say continue interviewing during this time. You don't have to hire 20 people or 10 people or whatever the size of your business, but there will be 2 or 3 people that you can hire, you can pick out at this point in time that will make a substantial improvement to your business afterwards. They're going to be available in normal times. They would not be available. So continue recruiting and finding some excellent talent at this point in time. And then the other thing is innovate. This is the time where you need to innovate. I'm going to take, forget technology and so on. Just take a wedding planner, for example. I'm making up such a silly example. But your wedding planner, there's not going to be any weddings for the next 6 months. If you can convince a couple that, they really want to get married, and find a way that they can get married using Zoom or some kind of a new tool or something, and then use that to really get exposure out there. This is the time where you can get exposure with innovation, because that disruption that would have happened in the market would have opened up while everybody's busy trying to make sure they survive. If you can innovate, you can stand out. And if you can stand out, then when things come back together, you will be right there. You'll be the first that people will go to continue on. So those are just a few of my thoughts. I think I've used up a little bit more of my time, and happy to engage with the rest of the panel and the audience.
Thank you, Safa. So basically now we move on to the next part of the program. Firstly, we'll have a look at some of the questions that have been sent online, and then we'll give a couple of people the opportunity to ask questions directly to the panel. The first one is actually going to be directed towards Shaz, and this is very interesting also to myself and to many people on the panel. You've been through fundraising rounds in the past. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs looking to fundraise and launch during the current COVID-19 crisis?
Unmute.
There you go.
You need to unmute, Shaz. There we go.
Yeah, no, perfect. No, Hasan's the man with the controls. Perfect. If you're looking to fundraise now, good luck. No, I think so. Here's my short answer. Look, no doubt a lot of investors will be, things just got slightly more difficult, right? So there's one big pro, which is the big central banks are literally throwing endless amounts of money at everyone right now. The problem is, well, I guess to some extent, what's sticking is the real question. Within reason, it's still relatively easy for VCs to raise money, to raise funds. The problem is right now, VCs obviously want to invest in things that are growing and where there's signs of growth. And obviously within reason, people are looking at the next, I don't know, well, people don't know. People are saying the next 3 years, possibly, who knows? Are we going to be X growth? And I'm talking generally here. So what you need to focus on is, okay, you as a specific kind of business, I'm always convinced when it comes to raising money, it's the power of your story in terms of what the hell it is that you're trying to do, but probably more than ever now, the power of your data. How good can you actually convince people in terms of, because you can say whatever you want. You can say, my God, my business is, you know, I could be there saying, oh, Muzmatch, amazing. We're going to change the world. We're going to do all this stuff. Great. Someone's going to say to me, all right, well, what kind of numbers have you got? What's your story? What real traction have you got? What's your actual growth like? And I always think within reason, solid numbers actually close a lot of, open a lot of conversations. Concrete numbers in terms of revenue, in terms of traction, in terms of growth, it cuts through all the crap because it's pure hard answers of, look, despite whatever's going on in the world, this is some hard data that we're seeing, that I'm seeing, or this is the way we're growing. Don't miss out, basically. So I do think within reason, look, if your idea is strong and your data is good, I don't think it becomes too difficult to raise money. Probably more so now, the idea has to be a little bit stronger than it used to be. The numbers have to be a little bit higher than they used to be. Probably that's true right now. But I do think there'll be a period where let things calm a bit. Let you know, even if you look at the stock market, just let it find a level. Within reason, I think let everyone just get accustomed to this new world that we're going to be in for, you know, the next 3 to 6 months. And right now the problem is no one knows, is it going to be 3 months? Is it going to be 6 months? Is it going to be part of the country locked down for 6 months and others locked down only for 3? Who knows? Is London going to be shut down for a lot longer? Literally no one knows. All these things are up in the air. So that's just the UK. I mean, other countries like in the US are on different kind of trajectories. So I think for sure, don't rush to try and, you know, you must raise right now, because I think no doubt a lot of VCs and a lot of investors will sit on their hands because everyone's thinking, oh crap, I need money for X, or, you know, that particular purchase they were hoping to make, they're not going to do anymore. So use this time, like I think exactly as Safa said, invest in your business within reason in terms of time or in terms of actually making some solid progress. Somebody else reached out to me. They were trying to raise some money right now. They were trying to pitch. They asked me to look at their pitch deck and all that kind of stuff. And I said, great. But I said, you know what, right now, just look, use this time to actually prove that you've got something here. And I think that's the best answer I would give anyone. It is a crazy time, no doubt. And no doubt it's become harder for everyone. But within reason, you can't be one of those businesses that only survives when things are really, really good for everyone. You know, I think the mark of real solid businesses, and obviously it depends on which sector. Some businesses do better than others, but within reason, if you're really quite defensible, which you should be trying to build for, that's how you want to focus. I've told all my guys, you know, even before we raised and after we raised, everything we do, we have to plan for the bad days. So, you know, I always maintain the discipline in terms of how we spend the money, what we spend it on, and how we kind of hold ourselves to account. Because I'm an ex-banker, I know things go up and down, and I'm very used to it. So the moment, you know, in terms of the business from day one, I always plan for the bad days. I always plan for, I have to make sure that I can survive without relying on investment, and so thankfully the great position for us in both rounds were we never needed to do the round. It was always within reason, quite a nice luxury. And if it made sense on our terms, great. So I think it's not easy for everyone, but if you can at least aim towards that kind of situation, it always puts you in a much better position and a much stronger position. The fortunate thing for Muzmatch is, like I said, with everything that's going on, we're a sector that fortunately benefits from this. People are staying at home. People have more time on their hands in inverted commas. Yes, it's harder for people to meet, but no doubt people are spending longer on that. So we're one of the lucky businesses where it helps us. So for us, again, as Safa mentioned, we're using this time to really invest in what we're doing. So as a slight kind of detour to your question a little bit, we're focusing on what helps our customers the most. And we had in our roadmap to introduce things like video calling or voice calling. Well, we put that right at the top of the list now, because if ever there's a time where that's needed, now is the time for that, So we're really hurrying to get an early version of video and voice calling out, because right now, if you're chatting to someone on Muzmatch, it's nearly impossible for you to physically meet them. So we've got to make sure we find a way for you to meet them virtually. And halal.
Thank you, Shaz. Okay, so Safa, the top question here, which is the most popular, and I think also very interesting in the current climate, is: do you think the UK economy will cope with the current and growing pressures? Is a recession imminent? I would add to that and say, is a depression imminent?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a fundamental hit to the economy at this point in time. I mean, you've got basically a situation here where there's a virus that's causing all of this. This isn't I mean, I would look, if I want to say that there would be a problem in the UK economy, I would look for underlying economic factors. But this is a kind of situation where basically people are told not to go out, and that's why we're having this economic slowdown. And it's only logical that if those things are removed, then economic activity will return. So I'm personally bullish about how things will return. And like I said, when it returns, there's going to be pumped up demand for all kinds of products and services, and that should be the engine for restarting the economy.
Sorry, there's one question here which I would address to both Mahmood and Hasan. In the current climate, are there any books you would recommend and why? So I'll start with Mahmood, please, and then we'll go to Hasan.
One of the books I'm reading at the moment, which I think is fantastic, is Shoe Dog by Phil Jackson, The Story of Nike. Okay, I think it's fantastic. Read that. It has a lot of inspiration for a time like this. 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, a great old-timer book, but I think that's a great book to read right now as well. As everyone's rightly said, just really, really use this time well. That even though, sales and that may not be coming through, use this time to kind of build yourself up. I also, this kind of time, get out there, get people to know about you, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, LinkedIn, TikTok. Use all of these mediums right now. Serve. Like, even though the sales aren't coming in right now, that's okay. But just find a way to serve your clients at a time like this, because the back end of there, it's all ROI positive, right? So just as much as you can serve, just go out there, give, go give. Some of us, we've got businesses, but we're not out there that much, right? Use these mediums, get out there, have daily Facebook lives, YouTube lives, LinkedIn's got a live feature now. Just use this place as well. But books wise, yeah, the one I'm reading right now is Shoe Dog, but 7 Habits, really, really recommend that as well.
Thank you. And Hasan?
Son, you really got to do the mute thing.
Yeah, so I already held this up. Atomic Habits. Really love this book. It's kind of a good synthesis of all the different things that I've learned about habits and routines, and we all need to develop new habits and routines right now. And I have to give should I give myself a plug? I mean, I've got it right here. So I would recommend, if you're thinking of starting a business or any project or kind of want guidance in career, that's where the Unfair Advantage can help you.
Cool. Back to Shaz. This is coming right to the top as well. I'm not sure the English is right, but how would you advise someone, I think it's saying, to bootstrap an app startup with just an idea? Unmute. I keep unmuting you, right? You go ahead, yeah. You
Yeah,
can
I know.
unmute yourselves, guys.
I know I'm loud. How would you bootstrap an idea or just an idea into an app? I always felt that I've lost count of the number of people who've said this to me or come to me with this. And I always say there's loads of stuff you can do before you get to that stage. The first, people are like, oh, I've got this idea of, I don't know, I'm making this up, an app that helps you learn how to play the piano. Great. I'm like, okay, fine. There's some basic things. Who else is doing it? How original actually is it? How different is it? What you can do as a call it, let's say you're not technical. The one thing you can do is get a piece of paper and actually draw out every single screen of what you think this app should look like, how it should work, what the app's real USP is going to be. You can get someone really cheaply, even on Fiverr, to mock up a prototype based on those diagrams that you've done. You can then get that prototype out to people and say, play with this, what do you think? You know, the app doesn't do anything, but at least they can navigate it, they can see what it means. Hopefully they should be able to understand what the hell this app is actually doing. And then the core question is, do they think it's actually useful? Will they use it? I always say the biggest question with apps that everyone should always ask themselves is, if I install this, am I going to use it in 3 days' time? And that's if you can answer that question and have a good answer, then you're onto something. If it's one of those apps that, it varies depending on sector again, but if it's one of those apps that relatively speaking, you're not, it can be quite hard for people to actually stick around. You know, there's a chart that I think Google and probably Apple have actually released in terms of data, which shows on average for most apps in 3 days, 90% of installs are gone. As in, of everyone who installed it on day 0, within 3 days, you've lost 90% of those people. That's how brutal it is. So your app really needs to genuinely add some value to someone. So assuming you got through all of that and then you're thinking, right, now I need to build it. There's 2 ways. I self-taught because I thought if you want to do something well, you got to do it yourself. So I learned how to build apps and did it. I do think everyone is fully capable of doing that. It just takes time and proper effort. And look, now you're sat at home. What's the one thing you've got? Lots of time. So no excuses now. Literally, turn Netflix off. If you just add up how much time you waste on useless stuff, trust me, you've got enough time to learn how to code. But let's say you're completely not technically minded, and for you it's an impossibility. Fine. Find someone else that you can genuinely convince of this idea, in terms of, because if you can't convince someone, either someone you know or a stranger, of how good this idea is, then you maybe need to question the idea. But let's say you can, share some equity with them, get them involved, because their skill set will complement your lack of technical knowledge. And it just makes you a stronger team, because it's very hard. You know, Y Combinator that we were backed by, they don't accept companies where they don't have a technical founder, because they know the pure odds of success are so low if you're not a technical founder, or if there's not a technical founder present in that team. So definitely get hold of one, get some buy-in, get them some equity, and work on it as a team. Because trust me, I've grown, you know, from me in my bedroom to now, like I said, we're 30 odd people. And it definitely, the more people you have, up to a limit, it's an enabler. You can do so much more. So think of it like that.
And you know, if I want to add to that, Hasan, you know, add to what Shah says.
Sure.
Actually, if you look at all of the great apps, you know, Instagram and the likes, they're all developed by, or the founders are actually developers themselves, and they took a chance themselves. Because the fact is if it's an easy idea and it takes, you know, 3 or 4 months to kind of think about it, and it's rational that somebody would come and invest in it, somebody would have done that already. You'll find out that most original ideas, when you first share them, other people don't get it because it's too different to their current world. And so really what it takes most of the time is somebody that believes in the idea themselves. Yes, I think I agree 100% with Shahzad that they need to do all the due diligence for themselves. But then there's always a moment where you say, you know what, I'm just going to go for it, even if other people don't believe in it. And you got to be able to code it yourself, because you're not going to be able to pay somebody else to do it and put that energy into it. So you got to be able to prepare to have that skill set to go ahead and build that prototype and give it and let it be in people's hands and see if they like it. And if they like it, then that's the spark that you need, that you can go from there. So I'd really encourage anybody who wants to start up, do app startups and so on. It would be so much better if you're the technologist yourself, learn the front end, learn the back end, and be able to be a full stack on the developer and develop it end to end, at least to the prototype stage. Because you're the only one that's going to believe in that idea, you know, that's so early.
And remember, literally, we're so genuinely so lucky. Everything's available on the internet. You can go on YouTube and there's classes of how to build apps. I remember when I was learning how to build Muzmatch. So Muzmatch was my first and only ever app. I've not done any others, right? This is my first one. And I remember I started off, I actually started kind of backwards. I started building chat first and then built everything else outside of that. And there's great tutorials of how to build chat on iOS for Apple, and then how to do it in Android. And it took, the iOS was a lot harder back then. The language was different to what is predominantly used now. So back then it was Objective-C, now it's Swift. A horrible language. But back then it was, there were tutorials online. I just went through, I learned by doing. I don't really learn through books. So I did a basic tutorial of how to build, like I said, a basic chat, call it setup. And then I just got stuck in, because the more you get stuck in, the more problems you face, you'll learn how to master the art of Google. All the answers are on there, trust me. All engineers, they're getting everything from Google, Stack Overflow, all these websites. Trust me, most engineers aren't all that. So it's all on there. All you got to do, sorry engineers, all you got to do is how to find the right bits of information. There's plenty of people on there who want to help you, but you just got to get off your backside and do it and stop wasting time. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Shaz. So, all right, we want to move on to the next part of the program. Now, I'm going to give everyone a chance to raise a hand if they want to ask a question directly. And in the meantime, I will ask another question. So if you're not used to it, there's a feature which allows you to put your hand up. So if you want to ask a question, put your hand up. So we've got the first question coming from Akil Kazmi. I'm going to allow you to talk, and you can direct your question. Please direct it to the relevant panelist.
Yeah, hi there. So I think it's for Hasan. I've actually got it on there. So in terms of, obviously now with COVID-19 situation, online training, what tips would you give in terms of trying to promote training in terms of, for example, say project management, business analysis, that type of training? How can I sell that online?
I think it's a great time for online learning. I don't think anything would really change very much. Maybe just throw in things in the marketing, in the copy, to get people's attention of how you're spending your time during lockdown. Are you using it wisely? Maybe you want to learn a new skill, etc. I would only tweak the marketing. I wouldn't really do anything different at all. Does that answer your question, Akil? I know you're muted now, but I thought I'd keep it nice and brief.
I can jump into that as well. I think now's the best time ever, because everyone's at home, right? No one can be anywhere. So whatever products you did have, which were one-to-one. So in my business, what I'm getting my clients to do is get everything online as well. So there's always been a time when you've wanted to get things online, but you may not have at the time. Now is the best time. I mean, there is no other way to do it. And I think now's the best way to be able to actually go out there and to be able to talk about what you're so passionate about as well, to get people attracted to you. So 100% right now, I think now's the best time to be able to bring whatever it is. And there is a way that you can do it online. Maybe like, whatever package you have. So I always say that, whenever you're creating packages, maybe have a one-to-one thing like you may have had, then have a group thing, then have an online thing. And the group and the online one works perfectly well now. And the one-to-one, we've actually gone to the business. Yeah, fine, you can park that, and that'll be picked up in 3 to 6 months. But the group one right now, look at us. There's about 60, 65 of us over here online. Imagine having 15 business owners, 10 business owners online where you can actually deliver what you're delivering. You don't need to go in anymore. I think it's a great time.
Thanks. Okay, guys, you can continue to raise your hand. I have another question that's come in, but if you have any more questions you'd like to ask directly to the panelists, now is your opportunity to raise your hand. My question is directed towards Safa and Mahmood, and that's there's this doomsday scenario that I'm hearing constantly, where it's like, well, guys, this is going to be a deep depression. It's going to be 6 months of debt for all the governments. We're going to be paying 70% taxes for the next 15 years. We're going to be paying, our grandchildren are going to be paying our taxes, are going to be paying off this debt, and that's the kind of, a lot that's coming out of people now is really negativity, and you feel it in society. Does that have any grounds, and how do we counteract that kind of negativity?
Actually, let me start off there on this. Honestly, when I hear that, I say, this is fantastic. I love this. This is wonderful. I've got millions of people who are depressed, who are not going to do anything, and they're going to be just looking backwards and figuring out how the world is going to end. this is a fantastic opportunity for me to be competitive personally, how I can be competitive in the future. You know, and it really, I mean, worrying too much about the macroeconomics of things is irrelevant, really, at the end of the day. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. You know, if we're going to have a booming economy, we're going to have a booming economy. If we're going to have a depression, we're going to have a depression. It's less important what happens to me with those macroeconomics than what I do personally at this point in time. Yeah. And so therefore, I'm going to look and see how I can be, look, we're still going to end up with a multi-trillion-dollar economy, you know, even if it goes down by 25%. And that's plenty in there for me if everybody else is depressed and trying to find reasons why not to do things, right? And so to me, that's all that matters, is what I can do to do it. Like, for example, you know, you look at our situation right now, we have customers who do taxi. Well, people are not moving, you know, everybody's at home. Where's the business? You know, where's the bright side of that? Everybody has to stay home. How do you help a taxi company with technology when people are not moving? Well, it's obvious. When people are not moving, things have to move. We go pick up things, we come back, pick up things and drop things off, right? And that's kind of what we do. We go shopping, we do all of those things. Well, if we're at home, then things have to come to us. And so we're developing technologies on a very rapid 2-week turnaround basis to provide technology for delivery that our customers can provide to all kinds of shops and businesses and so on. And then basically we want to change all those fleets into delivery fleets and connect it to all of the delivery companies that are booming right now, from Uber Eats and so on, others. So that's all. You know, you have to see your niche and where you can actually exploit the scenario. And the more people out there are depressed, honestly, that's great. More for me.
Okay.
Mahmood, go ahead.
Yeah, fine. Okay, I look at this a bit differently, right? For me, this is that you can't control and you have no idea what's going to be there. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, how many deaths are going to be, where this is going to be, whether lockdown's 3 months, 6 months, 10 months, don't know, right? We don't know when things are going to come back. Many people are saying the moment the doors open, then obviously business is going to get back to where it was, but it's not really going to be like that, is it? Because when people are going to events, when people are going, your people are generally going to be pretty worried. So my thing is that the biggest thing that you can do at this kind of time is learn how to control yourself and your mental state, because when you control yourself, then the things around you can be controlled as well. We have spouses, we have kids, we have family, we have people relying on us. And the most important thing I think in this time of doom and gloom is where you can control what's going on up there. So your mental state right now, you can't control what's going on the outside, but you can 100% control what's going on the inside. And the way to do that, 3 very important things. Be very, 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 very careful, number one, on what you focus on. So right now, what kind of things are we focusing on? Are you focusing on all the doom and gloom? Or are you focusing on there's a gift in this, right? There's a gift in this somewhere. Let's find out how you can use this time to be able to get yourself to grow. Maybe you're someone saying, I haven't enjoyed my job, I want to change. Maybe now's the right time to tap into your gift and really find out what you're great at and develop that. So the first thing is what you're focusing on. The second thing is the language you speak to yourself in. So a lot of people have a very negative self-talk, like, oh my God, what's going to happen about this? I'm going to lose my job. What if I run out of money? And change the way you speak about yourself. So speak to yourself in a very positive way, that this is great. I am going to do this. Have your affirmations. Give yourself a better way that you're speaking to yourself. And the third way is through your physiology, the way you act. Make sure you're active. Just being active allows more endorphins to rush through your body. Less cortisol, you're less stressed. So my thing is that you can't control what's going on the outside. Yeah, I understand that there are going to be a lot of people out there who are depressed. I'm not concerned about that. Hope that we don't have that many people. But the thing is, the most important way that we can lead in the way that we need to lead our families, our kids, our staff, is the way that we are. So my thing is take control of what's going on up there. So you can't control the outside, we can control the inside.
Cool. Thanks, Mahmood. A couple of quick fire questions. I don't want these to take more than 30 seconds each. Then we're going to close up. Shaz, as an ex-IB investment banker, what advice would you give to someone looking to invest long-term in the current bear market? Wait for lower lows or buy now?
The magic question. So I remember trading during the whole Lehman days, right? One thing I learned from all of that, and it is true, at the point of maximum fear is the point where you just close your eyes and get involved. Me personally, I do. So you have to think right now, there's one thing that really helps the market, which is free money being chucked at it. And if you look at the rally from post-Lehman to before Corona, it was all just liquidity led. It was governments, central banks pumping money in, super low interest rates, etc. The problem is now, so we're back to that, which is great. The problem is there has been a disconnect in company valuations versus actual income profits coming in. That has diverged. Whereas now you could actually argue, I'm going to give a slightly more technical answer here, but the market has kind of fallen to a level where it's fair. It's not necessarily fallen to a discount level. So what you got to look at now is, okay, do I think it's going to dip a bit lower? To me personally, on just how I look at it, I could be completely wrong, who knows? But for me personally, S&P at around 2100 is a level which I think is interesting. And for me, if I was going to invest, I'd put some stuff in there at that level, be it here in the UK or in US companies. Remember, for the FTSE, a lot of UK companies, their earnings don't come from the UK. So it's kind of misleading for a lot of people, but I would invest then. But then what I would do is, within reason, close your eyes and not look at it for 1-2 years. Don't be the guy who day trades, because you'll always lose your money. So put it in, find a good entry point, and then just move on. Focus on your other stuff, because that definitely, putting money and playing the stock market at this time, and you're thinking about your job and you're thinking about all these kind of things, trust me, it adds a lot of anxiety to your life. So just be very wary if you do want to start entertaining all of that.
Thanks, Shaz. That's a very good question, a very good answer. Hasan, was there a specific thing that motivated you to author a book, or was it a long-term plan? What inspired you? I think people are looking for inspiration at this time when writing is really it's a good time to be writing, really, isn't it? So what was your driving factor, and how did you get there?
I wish I had with me. So basically, we created. It's funny, me and Ash, the authors, don't think of ourselves as writers or authors. We never had that as a real passion. Ash thought he would write a book, and then I kind of got involved with it, and then I started to get more and more involved and became a co-author on the book. We had an MVP version of the book. It was 10,000 words, 1 hour read. It was the lean version. It was small. It wasn't like this thick kind of hardback, nicely designed. It was self-published on Amazon. We were just going to put it out there because we're just kind of practitioners. We just like to get on with business. But I think we just wanted to spread the word out there with this idea that when you feel passionate about something, I think that can drive you to do something, especially based on your own life experience. So for us, I think we felt like there's many people out there saying anybody could do anything, and it's kind of not based in reality. And the reality is that there are some hard limits, and we wanted to talk about something that isn't spoken about, which is unfair advantages. And we talk about how actually, but it's not all disempowering at all. So one of the things that we need to cover is how to think of it in a way that empowers people and inspires people. So for example, money can be an unfair advantage. Just look at Trump. He said I had a small loan of $1 million when I started out. However, having little money can be an advantage. So just giving a small piece can actually be an advantage in disguise, because it makes you more creative. It makes you more scrappy. It makes you think outside the box. Whereas if you have a lot of money, for example, starting a startup, you might just think, I'm going to throw it into Facebook ads and Google ads, right? So you lose that creativity. So that's just kind of one small slice. So we kind of felt passionate about getting this message out there. And I think that's one of the big drivers to write something and get something out there is, do you feel like it's kind of filling a need? You know, that applies to any kind of product. This is a book. This is an information product, I guess, but it applies to any product. Do you feel like you're going to serve people, going to fill a need? Is there a thirst for this? We tested it. We were giving talks all over. We were doing mentoring to startup founders. And that's what helped us to come up with this book. So it was kind of, we did that iteration and the whole customer development and all of that kind of stuff that you're taught in the startup world. We applied that to a book.
Thank you, Hasan. Okay, so I'm going to have one final question, and this is the last one. After that, we will close up. We'll close in comments, and then we'll have a final poll. So the final question, I think, is a very interesting one from Ali Abud in Manchester. Safa and Shaz, how will this crisis change the way we work? Do you see a future where a majority of employees work from home?
Shaz, would you like to get started, or?
You first.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to see a big difference in that. To be honest, in our own organization, we've always kind of been electronically connected, but we went to the next level. We're using a tool, Microsoft Teams, that we found really very good, and we're figuring out new ways how we can work together remotely. And, personally, I've always thought, I had flexibility and people can do what they want at work, be hip and so on. But I wanted them to really be at the office. But I think now I really can see how we can be very efficient working together remotely. So I think, I'm going to say at least 25%, 20 to 25% of people that used to work at the office will end up working remotely. And I think business owners and CEOs would be all right with that.
Yeah, I think I'd kind of agree. I think the one thing this has shown is, I'm someone who is slightly notoriously, I'm like remote working, whatever. That's my take. I'm like, get people in an office. I think it depends on what you're trying to build, in a way how mature your company is as well. Like for me, obviously, we've grown from wherever it was. It was like 8 people a year ago, and now it's 30 odd. But then you can't just introduce all these new people and have everyone working remotely, because no one will really know each other. There won't be that trust factor. There won't be that kind of social framework at all. You have a bunch of strangers working remotely and that's it. So I do think there's definitely benefit of having an office, having people in the office consciously together, which is what I focused on. But I do think, now within reason, let's say everyone kind of knows each other, everyone trusts each other, the teams know how they're operating, etc. Definitely one thing this has shown is, even to me, and probably to a lot of other businesses, is not to be too scared of the whole working from home setup. So I think it'll definitely open people's eyes. It'll increase the comfort factor of CEOs or team leads or wherever, in terms of being comfortable with people in their team working from home, which is a big plus. But then remember, like I've, speaking to all of my guys, and, like I said, I was going through kind of one-to-ones today of everyone. And you see some people love working from home. They like how the flexibility, they like being in control of their day. Some people are really good at structuring their day, and they are happy to kind of work on their own thing and check into Slack and all that kind of stuff when they need to. For other people, complete opposite. For other people, they struggle having good structure. They struggle turning off. They end up working really late, even though they don't want to. I'm the same, Yesterday I was working, and then I looked at the time. I was like, what the hell? How is it 8:30? It was one of those, right? So some people are kind of bad at that. And they miss also call it the banter, the social interaction in the office and all that kind of stuff. So in my head, both are important. I just think there'll be more of a willingness for companies or for even employees to have days working from home, and it not to be a big deal, and to actually be fairly productive. So yeah, I think no doubt it's the future. A lot of people are saying that this is kind of the big kick up the backside for a lot of businesses in terms of appreciating the true working from home setup. Because this has been talked about for ages. Technology is amazing. Video calling, you don't need an office. The whole world's going to change. WeWork's going to go bust because why do you need to be in an office? And I think to an extent, some of that applies, but definitely it was kind of slower moving. The traditional setup still existed. Whereas I do think now it'll probably nudge it a bit more. I think one thing that I'm always very wary of is at times like this, you read the news, you read all these different articles saying how this is going to transform the world and change the world, this whole situation in how we think and how we operate. And in my head, sometimes I actually think, people can be quite stubborn, and things don't necessarily move as quickly as people think. In pure technology, I think they can, because it is transformative. But I think in other ways, in terms of human behavior, sometimes I actually think it's a lot more stubborn and slow moving than you would like to think. So, don't necessarily believe the hype in thinking when all this is over, everyone's working from home.
And I think, Hasan, if I can just add one last point, is that, work could move to the concept of trust points, if you will. It's something that usually people don't talk about and we're not conscious about, but really maybe it needs to be more formal and talked between employer and employee. And really the concept is that when you join a company, you're kind of even with the trust points, and you earn trust points with the business as you perform for the business, as you do things with integrity, as you work hard and meet deadlines, you earn those trust points, if you will. And if you keep missing deadlines and you keep letting the business goes down, then trust points go down. And I think, to me, really the business and the employee needs to be more aware of what that is, where they stand with the business, and really have that more of that freedom of working from home for employees that have a high trust points with the business. And so I think businesses need to be conscious of that, and employees need to be conscious of that as well. They need to not only work hard, but they need to show how they're working hard and how they're performing for the business if they're going to be working remotely. And if they do, they'll find out that the employers would be happy to extend that courtesy to them.
Cool. Right. Okay, guys. Now, any final closing comments with 20 seconds, 30 seconds each, and then we're going to close up with a poll. Anybody got anything to add?
No, just look, everyone just stay positive. You know, yeah, it's a tough time, but it's a tough time for everyone. You know, I'm a bit cold. We all have to get on with it, and it's just life. This is our test. Just you don't want to look back thinking, my God, I wasted this massive opportunity. I was talking to my friends about this. I'm like, you're like I said, you've been blessed with so much time now. You're almost kind of forced to look at what you do with your life and your spare time. So just look at it and just check yourself a little bit. You know, we've got Ramadan coming up. It's going to be a completely different Ramadan, but embrace it. You know, this, I think Sheikh Yasir I just read today, he put a post out on this. This is a Ramadan where you won't be going to the mosque, you won't be doing communal stuff. It'll be you on your prayer mat on your own. So it's a real solid time where we can actually look at ourselves and figure out what the hell we're doing.
I think anybody who thinks they've got a lot of time during this time is really looking at this the wrong way. Quite the contrary. I think this is the time where you really need to squeeze in as much as you can, because it's the moment where we all need to step up rather than crawl under a table.
Yeah,
Mahmood,
this is the time, as I've always said, right, that use this time so well. Find the things which you've always wanted to do, the things which you're struggling at, the things which you want to do but you're bad at, and just improve yourself right now. You've got a few months, make this work. If you don't like your job, now's the time to get out of it. Now's the time to try and find something else. You know, develop yourself, make yourself better, right? People reward you in public for what you do in private. This is the private time you have. You know, build yourself, do whatever you have to do so that when everyone else goes out in 3 months' time and everyone just goes normal, you can kind of have the life that you always wanted. But it's tough. And you've got to focus up there every single day to make sure that you can do that.
Thanks. Hasan, any final
Great
words?
final thoughts from everyone. I completely agree with everything. Just stay safe, everyone. And I like this quote, and it kind of touches on what Safa and Mahmood spoke about earlier, which is, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, to the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So don't worry too much about the macroeconomics. Don't worry about what you can change. Try to keep you and your family safe, and trying to use your time productively, hopefully.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, everyone for attending. Thanks for all the attendees who turned up.
We lost Hasan.
he chose his
He was in a rush. He was in a rush.
Well, this is fun, guys. Let's connect on LinkedIn, and
Thank you.
participants, feel free to connect with us. Hasan's back.
Can you hear me?
Hasan's back.
Hey.
Can you hear me, guys?
You're back.
Sorry, it's connected. Yeah. Okay, so now I want to go on to the next poll, if I can find it. Right, okay. So I've got a closing poll. I'm going to launch that. Can everybody please fill that one up in? And then I've got another poll after that.
You love a good poll, don't you?
Do you know what? I'm experimenting with a technology that's at my fingertips. It's pretty cool. So if you can complete that poll, and then we've got one more after that, which is a private one. In fact, both of them will be private. They're anonymous as well. Can everybody see the polls or no?
No.
That's a bit strange. Let me reshare it. Okay, can you see it this time?
I can see it, yeah.
So this is the ratings for each speaker.
It's a bit harsh, this. I don't want to do this. Can I abstain?
Shaz, your payment depends on this.
I know.
How much you get paid for this is, yeah.
I had to rate myself. This is depressing.
Don't worry, I'll keep this private. I'll only share it with the individuals.
All right. For the interest of transparency, panelists, you all get an excellent from me. Do you like how I skewed that? Wait, Hasan, you're getting 1.
I hope that's the other Hasan.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
There's two on here. There's two on here. Are you giving us both
I
one?
might have mixed it up. I don't know.
Okay, if you can complete that poll, we're still waiting for the majority to vote. Please, if you can vote quickly, and then we can close the session. Thank you, by the way, all panelists for taking the time. Although I'm hoping you enjoyed it and benefited somewhat from it as well, as a bit of a social interaction away from the working from home isolation business.
There are humans out there.
We're alive.
Just seeing you, Hasan, makes it all worth it for me.
No doubt.
Thank you so much.
He's wearing a blazer at home. 10 out of 10.
The three of the panelists are in London, I believe, and there's two of us in Manchester. So we've got a good mix. Although Shaz, you tilt the balance because you're a Manc at heart.
Yeah, I know. Always.
Northerner.
Northerner for life. Trapped in London.
Okay, guys. Right. That's the last thing. The poll's just going to wait. I'll give it 20 more seconds and then we'll close up. If you can complete, that'll be fantastic.
One of my friends from uni joined.
Oh, someone that you know, Shaz. Sorry.
Yeah. I just saw it in the old chat.
Cool. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day. The recording will be available within a couple of days. I'll share it on social media. And please stay safe, everyone. And thank you for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good one.
Take care. Bye.